Hello lovely family, welcome back to another interesting video. In today's video we're going to learn how to make a wrap crop top or an overlapping crop top, and we'll be using our usual bodice pattern to modify and create the top. If you're new to my channel, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell. I upload sewing tutorials on this channel every week. I know you'll find something interesting. I have over 100 videos on the channel. To my returning subscribers, thank you so much for joining me again in today's video. So let's begin. So this is our usual bodice pattern. I've just transferred from the shoulder line to the waistline. So we'll just modify this to create the wrap top. And to do this, first of all, we want to measure 3 inches from the waistline upwards. We're just doing this so that we can easily create our belt. We just want to extend this bodice because the wrap is going to run through around the front. As you know, our bodice pattern represents just half of our front bodice. Okay, that's a quarter of the circumference of our body. So now we want to create the full front bodice with this because it's going to be a wrap. That will make it easier for us. Okay, that's why we're extending all the lines we have here to the other side of the pattern. So I'll just mark my 3 inches as well on that point. So our waist circumference is 36 inches, and if you divide that by 2, it's going to be 18 inches. So we want to mark 18 on this point. Now, because we want that, we're going to also add 2 inches for our dart allowance. So we'll just measure 18 and add 2 inches. Okay, so this is 18 inches for our waist circumference, then extra 2 inches for our dart. Now we want to modify our neckline as well because we want a V-neck so that it overlaps on the other side of the blouse. Now we want the depth of our neckline to be 7 inches. Okay, so measuring from the shoulder line, you're going to mark 7 inches, and that will be the depth of our V-neck. So we'll now mark a straight line from that point, then link that up to our extension. Want to have a strap or a belt, we're going to further extend this. Now we're going to measure and mark our dart, and of course you know that the dart is the bust span divided by 2. So our bust span is 9 inches, and we're dividing that by 2. That's 4.5. So that's what we are marking on the waistline and on the bust line. So we'll now use that to create our dart. So measure 1 inch below the bust line. Measure ½ inch to the right and ½ inch to the left. Do same on the other side. Straight away we're going to cut our front pattern. Okay, you can add your seam allowance on the pattern before you cut, or you just add it straight on the fabric. So we're just cutting and we'll add our seam allowance on fabric. So our front pattern is ready, and we're going to cut 2 pieces of this in opposite direction. So we just transferred our back bodice pattern here from the shoulder line to the waistline, and that's all you need for your back. I will link the video of the bodice pattern drafting in this video, so you just refer to that after watching this video if you want to know how we got the back bodice and the front bodice pattern. Okay. Next, we're going to modify our basic sleeve pattern to create the sleeves for this dress. Okay, so the link to the drafting of this basic sleeve pattern will also be in the description of this video. I encourage you to watch this video so that it will guide you on knowing how we arrived here before we slash this pattern. Okay, just watch this video and that of the bodice pattern. It will give you a clear understanding of how we arrived at those patterns we used for this project. Okay, so we just want to measure the measurements we have on our bicep, and we have 15 inches here. We're going to divide this by 5. Okay, so just divide this 15 inches by 5. So you're basically sharing into 5 equal parts, and that will be 3 inches gap. Okay, so 3, 6, 9, 12 and 15 on that side. Okay, then we'll come to the bottom of the sleeve. So now what I simply did on this sleeve is the actual sleeve length is 23 inches, okay, which is here. So I just went ahead to add extra 5 inches. Okay, you can add up to 6 if you wish. Okay, so you just add about 5 or 6 inches to the actual sleeve length just to extend it a bit. This will help you create those puffs you have on the sleeves. It shouldn't be the exact length, so that by the time you puff it up, it takes away some of the length of the sleeve. I hope this makes sense. So I've just gone ahead to add extra 6 inches to that, then 1 inch for my hemming allowance. For the wrist, we'll just also measure what we have along this wrist, and we're going to divide that as well by 5. Okay, so when you've done that, you're now going to link the 2 points up. We want to number each of these points so that we don't mix them up when we're spreading on our fabric. Okay, then we'll slash through the pattern. You can spread on another pattern paper, stick it in place and cut before you cut on fabric, or you just spread straight on the fabric as long as you have the required gap between each of these pieces. Okay, so I'll be using this fabric to cut my blouse. You need about 1.5 meters of your fabric for this project. Okay, so this fabric I'm using has a width of 60 inches. Okay, so the belt we have for our overlap will extend to the end of that fabric. I'm going to cut. Just remember to add 1/2 inch seam allowance on the shoulder line and 1/2 inch at the bottom. So 1/2 inch allowance all around the pattern. Okay, remember to add your 1 inch seam allowance on the side as well. So this is what we have, okay, and that's the extension for the straps. So you can see I cut in continuous length. Okay, so I've just gone ahead to cut my lining on each of the pattern. So sew on the darts on the back pattern and also on the two front pieces. Sew on both the main top and the lining. You can also choose not to use your lining for this top. You just use a bias binding to turn up the bottom and all around the top, and it will still come out fine. Alternatively, you can just fold twice on the bottom just to hem like that, and you still use your only your main fabric without the lining, and it will still come out beautiful. And after sewing all the darts on the front and back pattern, we're just going to run some stitches on the bottom. So I've gone ahead to sew the bottom bit. I also did an under stitch. Okay, then you flip it the wrong way. Place them together and sew the neckline. When you've done that, you now do an under stitch as well. So when you sew on the neckline, you turn it that way, and you're going to make an under stitch towards the lining bit. Okay, I've also done the bottom. Okay, just sew straight and do your under stitch towards the lining side. Then you give it a good press. That's what we have here. I also did the darts for the front bit. Now what we want to do here as well is to turn to the wrong side, and we're going to sew from this shoulder line. That's from the top bit of the shoulder. We'll sew all the way So I've just gone ahead to sew the neckline, and the bottom is done as well. So what we need to do here is to sew the shoulders. So we're going to sew the front and the back shoulders together. So we'll just place the front piece that way. So that's what the front piece looks like when you've sewn and ironed. One quick tip: when you're cutting your lining, just make your lining ½ inch shorter than the main fabric, so that by the time you sew and iron, it's going to come under your fabric that way, as you can see. Just ensure you align the seam line. So from that end all the way to the front piece, then you do same on the other shoulder. You align the armholes that way. So we left out 1 inch for our seam allowance, so you're going to sew on that seam allowance, so that way. Ensure you align that seam line at the bottom, then you sew all the way to the other armhole. Then you do same on the other side. Just flatten out this allowance and you're going to iron it flat. Okay, so just iron it very well, both the main fabric and the lining, that's inside the top. Now one quick thing you have to do is on the right hand side of your top, you're going to create 2.5 inches allowance, okay, both on the lining and on the main fabric. Okay, this will be the point where your belt will pass through. So this space you left off here, you have to finish it. Just sew it so that it comes out neat. Okay, fold it out and do your top stitch around it. For the sleeves, we need elastic. So you need the elastic for the arm and for the wrist. So just measure around your arm, whatever you get, you just take away 1 inch from it, and that will be the length of your elastic. Cut 2 pieces of that. Do same on your wrist. measure around your wrist, whatever you get, take away 1 inch from that, and that will be the length of your wrist. Okay, just leave out your 1 inch hemming allowance or ½ inch as the case may be. Then you now measure 8 inches or 9 inches towards the armhole. Then you mark that there. Then from the top of the sleeve as well, you're going to measure 10 inches downwards. Then you mark that there. So you're going to mark that all the way to that end. So you make pleats at the top of your sleeve. Okay, just make some tiny sleeve pleats, or you can make basting stitch, then you drag it. Okay, just make some basting stitch or gather stitch, then you gather it before you now sew on your elastic. So how you sew on the elastic is you place it on that end, then as you're sewing you'll be pulling the elastic. Okay, you'll be pulling the elastic and be sewing on the elastic, and this will be squeezing up your sleeve. Okay, so you sew from that end to the other end and it holds the sleeve in place. Now you're going to move the next one as well. You're going to sew, place your elastic here. Before you start sewing on the elastic, you make your back stitch, then you start sewing. Just drag the elastic that way. As you drag it, you'll be sewing on the elastic, and that will be shrinking your fabric and causing it to gather up on there as you sew to the other end. So that's what. Don't forget to hem your sleeves here. Okay, so the sleeves are the last part to be sewn on, and once you've done that, your top is ready. Just one quick thing I did was I had to reduce the opening on the right side. You know, we made it 2.5 inches, but I had to reduce it to 1.5. okay, this was because the 2.5 was a bit too wide for me. So when you pass the belt through it, you have some space that will be revealing your body. But if you don't mind, you can leave yours like that, because you can as well just wear it with a camisole or something inside. Okay, but if you would like to just make it smaller, it shrinks it and the belt is able to cover the whole opening when you pass it through. Okay, so that's just one thing I modified there, and other than that, everything came out beautiful, and this is how the top looks like. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate your time. Please subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. Give this video a like, share with your friends, drop me a comment if you have any question or suggestion, and I'll be happy to respond to your questions. I'll see you in my next video.